When my doctor first told me that I had cancer, it's unlike anything I had ever heard in 60 years. It's a diagnosis that's personal. So although you may have loved ones, that are upset by this diagnosis, it's really something that you have to deal with on a one-on-one. It's you and cancer. I did get fired for having had cancer from my job, and I was really angry, and I was just really set aside. I could not imagine that a large corporation could disrespect an individual that had really showed up with the loyalty that I showed up to do a good job there. I thought that I would get justice, but I found out differently. It didn't take me long before I began to have the experience that there was a discrimination within the judicial system. In many cases, as in mine, I never got to even see the inside of a courtroom, which was a tremendous travesty in my personal life.
Under federal law and many state laws, an employer cannot treat you differently from other workers in job-related activities because of your cancer history, as long as you are qualified for the job. The Americans with Disability Act protects eligible cancer survivors from discrimination in the workplace, requires eligible employers to make reasonable accommodations to allow employees to function properly on the job. Accommodations may include modifying work schedules, reassigning an employee to a less physically taxing position, or providing a more comfortable chair. Ensures that employers must treat all employees equally. In this insider-exclusive Investigative Network TV special, our news team goes behind the headlines and getting at the truth, justice for Sue Bell, to examine how Charlotte McDaniel McGehee represented cancer survivor Sue Bell in a discrimination case. Agatha Christie once wrote in Murder on the Orient Express, "If you confront anyone who has lied with the truth, he will usually admit it, often out of sheer surprise. It is only necessary to guess right to produce your effect." Charlotte McGehee and Sue Bell have experienced a nightmarish legal catch-22 in trying to get at the truth for Sue's wrongful termination by Hercules lift boat and hold them responsible. Basically, Sue Bell got cancer. She went on disability. When she returned, she was given a lower annual review and then fired 6 months after she returned to work. Charlotte just needed to present these facts to a jury. However, she never saw the inside of the courthouse. Access to the court and a hearing is a fundamental right under state and federal constitutions. Money drove this litigation. From the beginning, Hercules, with their multinational corporation, paid a team of lawyers who refused to provide even the most basic discovery information to Sue Bell. Hercules fought every request, and the court never ordered the information be produced. Charlotte will relate this catch-22 legal nightmare experience and will also share with all of us the rights you need to know and what the law says about accommodating disabilities, such as, is it illegal for an employer to discriminate against you because you have or have had cancer? Which federal laws prohibit cancer-based job discrimination? Does every employer have to obey the Americans with Disability Act? Does every employer have to obey the Federal Rehabilitation Act? Which state laws prohibit cancer-based job discrimination? Can a prospective employer ask you if you've ever had cancer? What if you need extra time or help to do your job? Regardless of whether you consider yourself disabled, if you are treated differently because of your cancer history, do federal and state laws cover you? Can an employer establish specific attendance and leave policies? Can you take medical leave without risking your job? Can an employer discriminate against you because a family member has cancer? What types of job-related activities are covered by the law? Can an employer discriminate against you by failing to provide health insurance? Can an employer discriminate against you because of the results of a genetic test? Charlotte has earned the highest respect from citizens and lawyers alike, as one of the best trial lawyers in Baton Rouge, in Louisiana, and in the United States. Her goal is not only to get justice for her clients, but to make sure that everyone is treated with equal respect and dignity as guaranteed under the Constitution of the United States. She has built a substantial reputation by consistently winning cases other law firms have turned down. Her amazing courtroom skills and headline-grabbing success rate continue to provide her clients with the results they need and the results they deserve. This is the Insider Exclusive, live from Baton Rouge, Louisiana.
It is my great pleasure to introduce Charlotte McGehee to the show. Welcome to the show, Charlotte.
Thank you.
Tell our audience a little bit about the type of law that you practice and why.
My practice is primarily civil rights litigation, which is defense of persons who have been wrongfully terminated on the basis of race, color, creed, religion, gender. Sexual harassment and racial discrimination claims are something that I work mostly on in Louisiana here, in Baton Rouge, in the federal and the state courts.
Employment cases, basically.
Yes, employment litigation and wrongful termination and retaliation because you report discrimination.
Now, you could easily work for any of these companies you end up suing on behalf of your clients, right?
That's true.
But you choose not to.
No.
Why is that?
I choose to represent the plaintiffs because it is important to me that people understand that there are certain protections against discrimination, and there are rules that employers are not allowed to just willy-nilly go and do what they want to people because they have money or because they have such corporate power. The people who they work for deserve respect, and they deserve to work in a place free of discrimination, which includes sexual harassment, hostile work environments. It includes people who have worked for companies for years diligently who get sick, and then an employer, because they don't have a soul or a person who has a conscience, can just terminate someone because they're ill.
And today we are here in Baton Rouge discussing such a case, the case of Sue Bell.
I have Sue Bell here, yes.
Tell our audience who she is.
Sue Bell was a controller here in Louisiana. She had worked diligently for the company for a couple of years, and she got sick. And when she got sick, the corporation fired her.
What was the name of the company, by the way?
Hercules.
Yeah, and she was diagnosed with cancer, right?
Yes.
What happened as a result of this?
Once she was diagnosed with cancer, Hercules Offshore Inc. is the sub-company that went through what they considered a reorganization, which was basically to terminate Sue Bell without any regard for her future well-being or without any regard for her past performance and loyalty to that company.
And how did you determine that they were terminating and firing her because she had cancer?
Ms. Bell came to me through word of mouth from another attorney, and when I met with her initially, she brought to me documents that showed clearly that she had been discriminated against because she had cancer. She worked for this company and had merit raises and performance evaluations that were stellar until she was diagnosed with cancer in November. She had to have a surgery in February. In March, the supervisor over her was told by the company to cut the fat, and when she returned in July, the supervisor asked in September if he could fire her. And he was told, in deposition we found out that he was told that there was a red flag, that you shouldn't fire somebody that quickly. So instead he waited until January of the next year and unceremoniously told her that she was no longer needed.
Now, when they fired her, this was kind of a critical time, right? in terms of whether she would receive benefits and that sort of thing, right?
Correct.
What is that? Explain to our audience what happened.
Miss Bell was terminated after she had come back to work for 6 months. If she had been able to apply for long-term disability within the 6 months from returning from short-term disability, she would have been able to bootstrap onto her short-term disability complaint and collection of those benefits, and perhaps be qualified for long-term disability benefits. Instead, she was told that she would have to apply for short-term disability again, and because she was no longer an employee, she wasn't eligible to receive short-term or long-term disability benefits that she had paid for and rightfully should have collected.
Okay, so your situation when she came to you is you filed suit, correct?
Correct.
And what happened then? Because this is two stories here. One, what happened to her, and the legal challenges you faced, what were they?
The legal challenges were almost insurmountable. We started in state court in East Baton Rouge Parish.
Yes.
We filed a petition for damages, and within the first 30 days after we filed the petition for damages, we were removed to federal court.
What happened in federal court?
When we got to federal court, we never saw the light of a courthouse.
And why is that?
When we got to federal court, we asked for depositions and we asked for discovery to prove our case that Ms. Sue was wrongfully terminated because she had cancer.
Did you get it?
We were able to get some documents and some depositions, but not everything that we needed.
Right.
In the initial discovery phase in a federal case, they give you the names of all the witnesses who they believe have pertinent information. We were not allowed to take the deposition of all the people that the corporation identified as persons with pertinent information in this case.
That seems grossly unfair.
The federal rules of
Even illegal.
The federal rules of civil procedure are set up that we were limited to 10 unless we got court permission to take more. We requested that, and we were unable to get our permission to take more than 10 depositions.
So here you have a legitimate complaint that really needs to be heard by a jury.
Right.
You never get that chance because the court is setting up rules that prevent you from getting to the truth, right?
Right.
You appealed this decision, didn't you?
We did.
And what happened at the appeal?
The appellate court agreed with the district court that this case is sort of a catch-22.
Yeah.
So when Ms. Sue was denied her long-term disability benefits and no longer was an employee of this company, she had no income. The only income that she might have would be either unemployment or disability from Social Security. So unemployment is of a limited duration, and Social Security disability benefits can be longer than unemployment. And you have to allege, if you're going to have unemployment, that you can work in a position and it doesn't have anything to do with the qualifications. They're two separate issues.
Yeah.
So you have your case where you're an employee and you're working, and once you get sick, if an employer has the opportunity to provide you accommodations so that you can continue to work, they should.
Right. Under the American Disabilities Act.
Right.
Yeah.
So in this case, the employer chose not to do that. And in fact, they said in a newspaper article that they weren't going to fire anyone except on this other company that was not Hercules Offshore Incorporated. Miss Sue was the only person who was fired from Hercules Offshore.
Yeah. So basically she, and by the way, at the appellate court, didn't the judge fine you for even bringing the case?
The appellate court agreed with the district court.
Yeah.
Now, all of this occurs at the same time that the EEOC is investigating the federal cause of action.
Yeah.
Once the EEOC issues you a right to sue, you have 90 days to bring your federal cause of action outside of the state cause of action that I had already brought. So when the EEOC issued a right to sue, we filed her federal claims in federal court, and the federal court judge in the Western District fined me $1,000 for bringing the cause of action that the EEOC said that I had 90 days to bring.
Sounds crazy.
it was absolutely the most unheard
Did you pay
of.
it?
I did.
You had to pay it.
I had to.
It's very unfair. Very unfair.
The first issuance of the ruling was against Miss Bell, and I told the court, Miss Bell is a cancer survivor. She's 60 plus years old. She has no work. She has no income, and this company refuses to pay her even long-term disability benefits. How is she supposed to pay this? And the court said, you're right, you should pay it personally. And I ended up paying $1,000 to bring a lawsuit on behalf of a woman who has a bona fide claim of disability discrimination.
Wow. We have Sue Bell with us today, so let's bring her on so she can tell her story, because it's horrendous. It is my great pleasure to introduce Sue Bell to the show. Welcome to the show.
Hi.
You've had a horrible experience. Wrongfully terminated, can't even get heard in a courtroom. How does that make you feel?
It's really a difficult situation. It's even tragic.
Yeah.
Because of the circumstances that you have to deal with and the consequences.
Yeah. You worked for Hercules for how many years? Many years, right?
Right, from 2007 to 2011.
And what was your job there?
I was hired on to set up a new dry dock division, which happened.
Yeah.
And saved Hercules an exorbitant amount of money that was driven to their net profit bottom line.
Yeah, and you got excellent performance reviews, right?
I did.
Yeah. Then when you got cancer and you left for a while and then you came back, they terminated you out of the blue, right?
Yes, they did.
Did you, before you got involved with this legal case, you must have had some sort of interaction with the company. What did you say to the company?
Before the termination?
No, after the termination.
Well, during the termination process, I asked the human resource manager if this was happening because of my cancer.
Yeah.
And she did not answer my question.
But she didn't say no?
No, she didn't say no.
Okay. And did you ever call your boss and say, hey, what gives?
No, from that point on, I had no further contact with management of Hercules.
Because of your, let's say, inability to get even into a courtroom to have your case heard, what do you think of the justice system?
I'm a proponent of judicial transparency and accountability now.
Yeah.
It has really awakened me to that there might be some opinion that supported that there isn't really equal justice for all.
We're on national TV right now. If I was your previous former employer, what would you say to me? Be honest.
Well, if that was the best that a company could treat a 60-year-old diagnosed with cancer after having made substantial financial rewards for that company, what was the rest of society going to treat me as a 60-year-old having had cancer? I thought it was pretty repulsive that they took that action against me, claiming that it was a reorganization.
One last question. What do you want to see, even though you've exhausted all of your legal remedies here, correct?
Oh, yes.
Okay, what do you want to see done, ideally, in your case?
Ideally, we'd like to see that the summary judgment rules for claimants like Sue are revised so that a jury gets to decide her facts.
Yeah.
She never was afforded an opportunity for people to hear the facts of her case, which are egregious.
Right. Okay. Well, we wish you well.
Thank you.
And I'm sorry about your case. And hopefully something will be done positively in the future. Thank you so much for spending time with us.
Thank you.
What laws protect employees against discrimination?
In Louisiana, there are a set of laws that are protections against race, color, creed, religion, genetic, and in federal law, they are Title VII and the Americans with Disabilities Act and the Age Discrimination Act. And they protect people from discrimination on the basis of race, color, creed, religion, gender, age, and disability.
And even though there are laws on the books protecting employees, employers violate them all the time, don't they?
Yes, they do.
And that's the reason that you exist, and that's the reason why you represent them, to try and enforce them, right?
Right.
A bigger question is, what happens to the employers who violate the laws other than paying the employee their rightful amount of money or even some punitive damages? Do they get sanctioned by any regulatory agencies to prevent them or discourage them from violating the law in the future?
The Equal Employment Opportunity Commission is the arm of the federal government that is charged with enforcing Title VII.
Yeah.
If the EEOC conciliates with an employer, it can have conciliation where the employer has to do certain things to comply with Title VII.
Yeah.
However, if the EEOC does not take the case and the employee is left with a right to sue, when we go in a capacity that I represented Ms. Bell, the employer had no threat that the EEOC would then come back and make them enforce the law of you cannot discriminate against a person because they have cancer.
I want to thank you very much for being on our program, and I certainly hope the information that we have shared hits home with people so they can get the justice they need.
I certainly hope that people understand that there are rules preventing discrimination in the workplace that right now are very, very difficult to enforce as a single plaintiff.
Thanks for joining us. You can get more information about our guest and the issues at insiderexclusive.com.